Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's SAP Community Call. I'm Svea Becker and I'm part of the SAP Community team. And here with me, I have two nice speakers. I have Alix Pelletier. She's an intern at SAP and the SAP Intelligent RPA adoption team, and she has a lot of experience in web development. Then we have Baptiste Saint-André. He is an SAP Intelligent RPA specialist here at SAP, of course, and he joined the customer solution adoption team last year and has been involved in different activities, including training and support. So I'm really happy to have you both here. And the stage is yours. I hand over to you and I will mute and will put my camera off, and everyone enjoy the call today.
Hello, I'm going to share my screen. Please tell me when you see it. Can you see the
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. So the subject of this webinar is how to declare application entities and use them in automations with SAP Intelligent RPA 2.0. So today we're going to present you the webinar in this document, explain you how it works, and then show you the steps we need to do to create it. And then we will be ready to answer your questions. So in this webinar, you will see how to declare the elements of a list in the Browse Orders application using the new Cloud Studio. We will create an automation that will collect the declared elements, set their values in an Excel file, and format the cells according to their content. So in short, Baptiste is going to explain you how to to capture the page and declare the elements, and I will show you how to do the automation. So Baptiste, you can go.
Yes, thanks a lot, Alix. Hello, everyone. So today I will show you how to capture an application using the new Cloud Studio. So I will going to share my screen. Perfect. So now normally you see my screen. So here is my Cloud Factory. And to create a new project using the Cloud Studio, I can go directly to the project section, then click on the new project button. And for this project, we can give it a name, so orders management. And then when we click on the create button, we can see directly the Cloud Studio open. Okay, so after a few seconds, we are inside the new Cloud Studio. For this webinar, we will capture this application, which shows a list of few orders. So for example, if we want to retrieve the information regarding an order, we have the list here, and when we click on it, we have several details, like all items, the address or the name of the purchaser. For this application, we will, for now, just capture the order's reference and the order status. So for example, we can imagine that each morning we have to retrieve the order reference and then check the status of this order. So to capture an application using the Cloud Studio, we need to click on the create button. Then we can select the application, and we will have the list of all running applications on the system. So here, I just need to have my application in a separate window from the Cloud Studio, and then I'm able to see the browse order application. So the application name is set automatically. I can keep this one. And when I capture a new application, I'm also capturing a screen, the first screen of the application. And for this one, I can basically change its name to home screen. The technology is automatically detected. Here it's web. So everything seems to be okay. So I can click on the capture button. By clicking on the capture button, it will capture all my application, its tree, etc. And here we can see that it's saving the application. So once it's done, I can see my application. So on the left, I will have all screens regarding this application. In the middle, I have the preview of my screen. And on the right, I have several information about this screen. First things to do is to check criteria for my application and my screen. So if I click on the browse orders application, I can see that the domain has been set. So it's good for me. I mean, in general, for web application, we use domain. So the Cloud Studio by default puts the domain. And for this application is okay. Here it selected the title and the mainframe data. I can change these criteria. So for example, here I want to put the URL. So basically I can remove the title and click in the capture data section on the URL. And by doing this, the URL criteria is added. I can of course modify it. And I can also add other criteria. So for example, for this application, this application can be opened using 2 different URLs. So to be recognized every time, I had a second URL criteria. So I can see here that I have 2 URLs with the OR operator. And for the second one, I can change just the, use the second URL with it just without this symbol. So once it's done, I can click on apply. And that's it. Another possibility is to change the operator. So we have several operators. You can just say, for example, that my URL must start with and put the beginning of the URL. I can save my application, and once it's done, I can declare my elements. So for this automation, we will use 2 elements, the order reference. So just here, and on the right, the order status. So normally, we are able to just click directly on the preview to select elements. We can also use the both view, which represents the screen preview and the tree preview. And we can search directly for elements. So here I can search for example, the order. Here I can see that my elements is here. I can change its name. So for example, here it's the order reference. So the identifier is used internally by the Cloud Studio, and it's automatically updated depending on the name you want to put. Here, the text is set automatically as a criterion to match the criterion. It's not the one we want to use because basically we want to retrieve all order reference. And as we can see, it selected only the first one. And it has an issue with this one because it has exact same criteria. I will just change this one. So I can remove the text and set, for example, the class of my element. So each element which have this class will be selected. Here I can see that my element is still not uniquely identified. It's normal because I want to have all my order reference, but I can still click on declare elements, and I can see that all my order reference are have a red border, and I have this red cross, meaning that the element is not uniquely identified. As I want all my order reference, I just can click on this button, is a collection, to make this element a collection, which means this element represents all elements. So by clicking on this button, I can see directly that all my order reference are now well captured. And on the right, I have this element uniquely identified mark. In the tree, I can also see that now all my spans are captured and have an index. I can save my application. Okay, perfect. And now I want to capture this order status. So I can do the same, search for my elements. So here I took the first one. The name, it will be order status. And same thing here. I don't want to capture all in-time elements, but the in-time elements, urgent elements, maybe late elements, etc., etc. So I can remove the text and click on the class, and I can see here that my element is still not uniquely identified, which is normal because I want to have all this order status. So I can click on declare elements. I have this same system of red border, but if I set this element as a collection, we can see directly that all order status are now well declared. So on the left, I have my all my order reference, and on the right, I have all order status. So using a single element, we can make it as a collection and declare all elements that have similar criteria. I can save my project. So for today, we will just capture these two elements. If you want to capture other elements, so for example, the date, the dates, or the name of the company, you can do it exactly like I did. And on the right, we have also the date. We can declare this element, for example, to click on it, etc., etc. But for today, we just capture these two elements. And Alix will show you now how to use these two elements in order to create an automation.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was Baptiste's presentation. So now I'm going to show you how to do the automation. So my automation is going to set headers in an Excel table and format them in format their background color to highlight them like this. So you have the main header, orders list, and one column A for order reference, one column B for order status. So you see here you have all the references, and in the status column, you have 3 different kinds of statuses: in time, urgent, or too late. And as you can see, the statuses are colored according to their content. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the order reference and the order status from the application that Baptiste captured, and set them in the table and format the status color, font color, and save as in the workbook. So now I'm going back to the Cloud Studio. I'm going to click on Create and select Automation in the drop-down. I'm selecting my agent version. And the name of the automation, which is collect orders inputs. Now I'm going to filter the Excel activities to be able to use them. So now I have the workflow, which is empty with a start point and end point, and the activities that I can use in this workflow. So I'm going to open an Excel instance and add a workbook, a new one. I'm going to drop 3 set values activities to put in place the headers that I showed you before in the PowerPoint document. So the first set values, I'm going to choose the range, which is A1, so A column and 1 row, and select the string below. If I select the plus A1, it's going to create an input, and this is not what we want for this automation. So for now, it's the string. And the values is the main title, orders list. Same for the second one, which is A2. And the value is order reference. And the second column of order stages, it's B2, and the title. Okay, and now to highlight these 3 headers, I'm going to format the background color. So as you can see, we can select the range definition in the input parameters. So it's A1 to B2. And here, for the color to apply, you have a drop down with several colors that you can pick. And I'm going to pick light turquoise. And that's it for the formatting. Now, I'm going to clear the search field and go to the screen section and drag and drop main list that Baptiste captured. Now I have to double click on main list to open the screen preview. It's also important to double click because it gives you the access to the screen activities in the list. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do so. So I'm going to look for the activity start web page and drop it on the preview. If I click on the start web page activity, I see that we can parameter it, and I'm going to choose the navigator Chrome because this is the recommended navigator in this application. So that's it for the start web page. I'm also going to drop wait screen activity on the preview to be sure that the page is fully loaded when we start working with it. Now, I'm going to zoom in and select order reference element that Baptiste declared before and perform a get element on it. Since Baptiste declared all the order references, it's going to perform a for each loop on it. Now I'm going to select the get element activity and rename the output. So order reference to be able to see it, to use it in an easier way for more clarity in the future. And I'm also going to perform a for each on the status, a get activity, sorry. Oops. Okay, get element on in time. So it created a loop, a for each loop as well. And also going to rename the output parameter to order status. Now, in order to be able to set the values in an Excel table, I'm going to go to the data section and drag and drop the number in each loop. This number will create the Excel row in which each value will be set. So I'm going to open the expression editor to be able to edit it. And as you can see, when I start typing, you have a list of choice. So I'm going to pick step 9.index and add +3, because as you saw before in the table that I show you in the PowerPoint document, you have 2 lines of headers. And since the index is 1 indexed and not 0 indexed, we have to add +3. So I'm going to save and rename the output parameter to Excel row reference. Okay. And now I can set the value. I need to leave the screen preview by clicking on the canvas in order to be able to reach the Excel activity. So now set element, set values. I'm going to drag it and drop it in each loop. I'm clicking on the first one that corresponds to the reference. And I'm going to edit the range definition in the expression editor. So as you saw before, the reference is in the A column. So I'm going to type A and then add the row, which is, as I renamed it before, it's Excel row reference. Now I can save the expression. And for the value, I can select order reference in the dropdown. I'm going to do the same for the status. I'm opening the expression editor and start typing the step and select set 3 index and add +3 as I did for the reference. Now I'm going to rename the output parameter for more clarity, as I did before. And for the set value in the Excel table, I'm going to edit the range definition, which is in the B column. So I type B and add step 15 Excel row status. I save the expression. I set the value to order status. And now I can add conditions to format the status to a different color depending on its content. So I'm going to look for the condition activity and drag and drop it in the status loop. By clicking on it, I can edit it. So now I can, as a condition, select order status and type is equal to in time, save expression. I'm going to add another condition and edit it. So order status is equal to urgent, save expression, and add a last one, edit formula, is equal to too late, and save expression. Now we have the three kinds of status, so we can format the cell according to their content. I'm going to look for the format font color activity and drag one on each condition verified branch. I'm going to click on the first one, edit the range definition. So as we saw before, it's B plus the Excel row status. And I'm going to copy this so I can paste it in all the others other conditions and the color to apply. I'm going to set it to green. For the urgent status, I can just paste what I typed sooner and set the color to orange. And finally, for the urgent status, paste again and set the color to red because it's urgent. Now that all the table is set, I'm going to click again on main list to perform a close application activity, dragging and dropping it on the preview. So you see it appears there. And now I'm going to finish with the Excel activities. So save as workbook. I need to type the file path in which I will save the workbook. Orders list.xlsx. And I select the string below. I can open the expression editor to check that it's well typed. I think it looks, no, it's not, as a typo. Browse orders list.xlsx. Okay, it's good. And now I'm going to close workbook, which is here. By clicking on it, I see that I can edit the has to save parameters. Since we already saved the file in the save as workbook activity, I can set this parameter to false. Okay, and now I can just close the Excel instance and save the automation. So now the automation is ready to be tested. I'm going to minimize the window so that you can see what happens in the background. So I can click on test and set the environment to my environment and click on test. So as you can see, the orders list is being set. Now the page is opened. And the values are not being set. I'm going to start again. The station has failed. Timeout waiting for main list. Okay, maybe it's because I manipulated the screen. I'm going to do it again. Sometimes this happens. I'm going to add an activity to see. Sometimes it works to unstuck the situation message. Okay, save. And start again. That's the demonstration effect. Okay. So now manager can't find appli. Let's try one more time. I'm going to delete the log message and save again.
Alix, you can try to also close all Excel instance running on your system.
Yes, possibly. I'm going to open the task manager. And task. And task. Okay. Typical case of a demonstration effect.
I always think this is the best way for the audience to learn, so it's all good.
So now the values, the headers are being set, the page is being opened. Yes. And now, as you can see, the orders reference and order statuses are being set, the workbook closed, and the application closed. Yes. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. So now you can ask your questions.
Yeah, so there are already some questions. For example, in the chat, approximately 10 minutes ago, Balbir was asking, can you not avoid having two for each loops? Means can both elements be placed within the one for each loop? Maybe you are able to answer that one.
No, it doesn't work that way. We have to create for each value as it is now.
Okay, Balbir, I hope this answers your question. And then we have also, yes, he said, okay. Then we have also some questions in the Q&A tool. Baptiste already started to answer them during your presentation. Thanks for that. So we have one question I can answer. Are we going to get the deck? Yes, Srinivas. We will provide the deck afterwards. I will post the link in the chat here in a few minutes. Another question from Gunjan. Will it create a folder while saving Workbook if it doesn't exist?
Sorry?
Will it create the folder while saving Workbook
no.
if it doesn't exist?
No, it doesn't create the folder. I used the folder that already existed.
Okay, then we have another one. Will it launch the application on the Start web page step, or do we have to keep the app open in the browser?
It's better if it's not opened in the first place. The question is maybe can we use the already open application and not perform the open web page activity? Yes, we can do that, I think, but since it's an unattended automation, the deal is to minimize the user's actions in the automation. So it's better if the user doesn't have to do anything and the application opens on its own. Did I answer the question?
Yes, and the start web page, in fact, starts the application. So if it's closed, the start web page will open it.
Okay, so he replied, I think this answers the question. Thank you very much. And we have some people who want to talk. So Arpan has already raised the hand. I allow you now to talk. Arpan, you can unmute yourself and then you can speak up.
Hi, thanks. Yes, but I had a question, but thankfully I already got the answer. So thanks for that.
Okay, perfect. Then thank you. Then unmute yourself then. Then we have Srinivas. He would also like to talk. You can unmute yourself now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So my question was about having the start web page inside the main list application, which was also answered. But just wanted to clarify one more point on top of that instead of actually going to the discussion or manually in the chat. When we say that we drag and drop an application, now during the capture phase of the application, we will have the criteria maintained for it, that if this criteria is met, then that application is identified. If we don't launch the web page before the main list application, then how does the capture criteria get fulfilled? So my point was the start page should be ideally before the main list application is dropped on the canvas, so that the main list application gets determined after the web page is launched, and then rest of the process continues.
Yes, that's a good question. Actually, you can do both, but it works the same. It's just a display. It's a UI UI display. It works the same. So if you drop the activity on the screen, it will open the screen as if you had dropped it before. Do I answer your question? Maybe Baptiste, you can
Yes, maybe I can share my screen quickly. Okay, so here basically I have my automation. And when I search for the start activity, I just have the start application activity and not the start web page. So what I have to do is just opening screens. So here I have my home screen. And by opening it, I have directly my start web page. So without this screen, I don't have access to this start web page.
So you could basically take out the contextual filtering and then bring the start web page first and then bring the home screen.
What you can do is to do like this. And here we can see this red mark, and it's because this application from this activity, sorry, need a target. And by selecting a target, so here my home screen, you see directly it encapsulates my start web page.
Oh, okay, okay. Now I understand.
And for criteria used, for example, the URL, it takes by default the home screen URL. But if you want to open another URL, you can use this parameter.
Okay.
But I think it's a bit different with the start application activity.
Yes, the start application activity, you can basically put it outside an application. I mean, outside this encapsulation, and check your targets. But you have to be aware that it starts the application itself and not the selected page. Sometimes in some use case, it can be useful to use this start web page instead of the start application.
Okay, okay.
In general, start application activity is used for UI automation applications. And for web application, we use start web page.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thanks for answering that.
You're welcome.
Thank you too. And we have more questions in the Q&A tool. Lars is asking, since it's unattended, wouldn't it make sense to set the Excel file saving path as a parameter? So for example, for every day, the file can be saved.
Can you ask again, please?
You can also read it in the Q&A, Alix. So since it's unattended, wouldn't it make sense to set the Excel file saving path as a parameter?
Yes.
So for example, for every day, the file can be saved.
Yes, I'm going to share my screen. No, new share. The screen. Yes, this one. So I'm not sure it answers your question, but you can set environment variables. So here I could have created, for example, a variable named file path. Set it to string, create, and then in the save as, I could have, for example, I could have added file path and plus the name of the file, which could be cancel file path. Yes, I could have added file path, save expression, and then save the automation. And then when you test the automation in the file path, you have to type it. I'm not sure it answers your question.
Normally, yes.
So Lars, I allow you to talk. Can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, it kind of answers my question because my idea was we want to collect the status of each order, for example, every day at 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. And then it would make sense to save a file which says it's Wednesday, 24th of February, 2021, and
Yes.
put this parameter as a variable into the saved file path, or
Yes.
name the document that way.
Yes, you could do this. Name the file with the date. Is that what you wanted to do? And do it every day in a scheduled trigger automation.
Yes, I think you just have to create a custom script, and in this custom script, create a new timestamp based on the actual dates. So it's using JavaScript. So basically, you can do a new date, convert it to a string, and use it inside your file path. Like this, you will be able to have, for example, my orders Wednesday.xlsx.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, very cool.
Perfect. And Lars, I mean, you are still on. You have also asked a question about the failed test run. So you said the same happens often in your test runs as well. So
yeah, we also had the problems that when we moved from different applications, or when we opened, or we had different Excel files opened while while we were working with the automation on one of them, we had problems that the bot could run the test run properly. Do you have further explanations on the failed test runs? Because that makes it sometimes very difficult to find the real issue for the automation failure.
Yes, in fact, it depends of your automation. Alix, I see you share a screen. If you open the timeline on the left.
Yes.
Okay, here, this timeline is here to help you. And with next releases, this timeline will be improved. But for now, you can use it to determine where your application, where your automation failed. Basically, it writes the last activity which works. So for example, if here the last activity is close Excel instance, it works. But we can imagine that after we have another activity, we can determine that it's the next activity which has failed. But it's not always the case. I mean, sometimes, for example, if you want to click on the button, the click is done. The activity is executed, but in the application, the click is not done. So the next activity, which may be a wait element, and because of the click has not been executed, the next element is not appearing. So it depends really on your use case. You can use this timeline to check what is happening. And also in this timeline, you have some events which can help you. So for example, events are in this gray part, screen, main list, unloaded, etc. And this part can help you to know if the application you want to see is loaded. Sometimes it's not loaded, so it's why you have an issue. For Excel activities, most of the errors come from the fact that the instance has not been closed. So sometimes if you don't close your Excel instance, the next run, it will fail. And if you don't, and if you want to do some activities after a closed Excel instance, it will fail also. So different use case, but this timeline should help you to debug your project.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think it's very complex to find the failure as well, and it's good to hear that the debugger will be improved.
Yes, there are some, each month there is a release of the project, and improvements regarding the debug parts are in the track, so it will be improved for sure.
Thank you, Lars, and thank you, Baptiste and Alix, for answering. Srinivas has again asked a question. He's not sure if it was covered in the slides, but can you please talk about criteria definition using ancestors, and how does that work in 2.0? I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yes, maybe I can share my screen again. Yeah. Okay, screen share. So for those who worked with the Desktop Studio, we had this system of ancestor and parent-child. Using the Cloud Studio, we have this same mechanism. So for example, here, if I want, maybe I will take a real element. So if I'm looking for the first dates, okay, so the pattern from the pattern method on the Cloud Studio is working with the tree, like in the Desktop Studio. So for example, here I have my date elements. I can remove the text. Okay, and I just check, okay. To add an element inside my pattern, I can just basically click on these three dots next to the upper parent and click on add to criteria. So here, my elements will be matched when it's a span with, as a parent, another span which has the ID equals to here. And of course, I can continue again and again. So if I want to add the div, I can also add it to criteria, etc., etc. And sometimes you want to use the parent child. So for example, here, if I set the ID, I have my dates. Dates will be okay. So here I have an element that I want to use as a parent. And if I want to declare this span using these dates, I just have to give a name. And what can I do is over my elements, my date elements, click on the three dots, and same thing, click on the add to criteria button. Like this, my span doesn't contain any criteria, but as the dates as parents. So I can basically just click on the declare elements, and with just this parent, my span is well recognized and uniquely identified. And that's it for the ancestor, child, and pattern method.
Thank you. Another question. In the test console, we do get some diagnostic. Can you please explain on how to do the investigation with that?
You mean in the console in the console?
Yes, in the test console, when it runs and when it errors out, you would get some a line saying that okay, cts.diagnostic, and some path is given which probably would end up in your local machine folder. But what do we do with it? I mean, just as a part of an extension to Lars' question, will investigation of error would be possible using that diagnostic files that are created?
Actually, you can open the file with a text editor, with a code editor, and if you create a JSON file, you can use the debugger to see that if there are any bugs in the code. Is that what you wanted to know?
No, I mean, if there is anything that you could show around as to how do we identify. So for your case, when it failed something, was it a false positive? And if it is a false positive, does it reflect into the files that are getting generated as part of the diagnostics?
That's a good question, Baptiste.
Yeah. In fact, normally these files are for the support teams. It contains what we call functional traces, but we can't, how to say, determine if it's a false positive or if it's a real issue. It's really depending on your project, on your use case. I can show you. I'm just looking for an example. Okay, I'll just share my screen quickly. So here, for example, I went to my project, which is downloaded inside on my local computer, and here I have this log message, etc., etc. So here are the archives which are created at each run. But basically, it's for support teams. You can see the traces, which can be opened with the Desktop Studio, which contains your functional traces of your automation. But these traces will can be asked by a support team when you create a new ticket. Basically, most of users will not access this folder and find try to debug their project using this archive, etc. So this archive can be asked by when you create a ticket, but normal users normally don't access these archives.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I can also say thank you. And last question, is project import-export functionality supported by Cloud Studio?
Yes, I can also answer. So for now, export projects are works. I mean, you can export your project, but you can't import it for now. It means that if you have an issue, you can export your project, and the support team on their side will be able to import your project. And this feature will be available for everyone at the end of March. So it will be the 2103 version. And with this version, the import-export version will be available for everyone. So we will have the same mechanism as we had in using the Desktop Studio.
Perfect, thank you very much. So a lot of people are leaving because we are at the top of the hour. I know we have scheduled a little longer, but I think it makes sense because people have to run to other meetings. So, and I recommend everyone to follow the SAP Intelligent RPA tag in the community, the topic page. There are a lot of things coming up. There are nice initiatives from the SAP Intelligent RPA team coming up, like topic of the month. So stay in the community, watch out, and thanks very much to Alix and Baptiste for having been part of this community call today. It was a pleasure having you, and thanks everyone, and I wish you a nice day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you for attending.